Are you looking to move to the UK on a Tier 2 visa? And are you confused about the different types of Tier 2 visas, specifically the Tier 2 General and the Tier 2 ICT visa? In this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between the Tier 2 General and ICT visa. And if you stick around till the end, then I'll give you some bonus tips on my personal experiences and what I think you should do when you're considering moving to the UK on a Tier 2 visa.
Get strong.
Hi, my name is Arjun and this is The Nimble Nomad, the channel where we talk about my experiences in the UK and I provide you tips, tricks and hacks to thrive and survive in the UK. There are many different types of visas on which you can immigrate to the UK, and the visa that you can apply to immigrate to the UK varies significantly based on your nationality, your personal circumstances, your jobs and your education. In this video, we're going to be specifically talking about the Tier 2 visa, which, as I'm aware, is the most common work visa that you can use to immigrate to the UK. Specifically, the Tier 2 visa consists of 4 different types of visa. So you've got basically the Tier 2 General visa, the Tier 2 Intra-Company Transfer visa, also known as the ICT visa, the Tier 2 Sportsperson visa, and the Tier 2 Minister of Religion visa. Now, I'm not personally familiar with the Minister of Religion or the Sportsperson visa, so I'm not going to be talking about those in this video, but I will be covering the first two that I just spoke about. Also, before I get into the specifics on the different types of visas and the differences between these visas, I just want to clarify that I am not an immigration advisor. This video is purely for entertainment purposes and is provided to share my personal experience so that you can use this to do your own personal research when applying for a visa. Let's talk about each of the two visas that I'm going to be covering in this video. So the Tier 2 General visa. The Tier 2 General visa is a visa that can be procured by a non-EEA citizen, so a non-European national or a citizen or resident, and if you're not British. So if you want to immigrate to the UK for work purposes, it's typically provided by companies who are willing to sponsor you. And they're provided for jobs where there's usually a skills shortage, or if there's somebody who absolutely cannot do the type of job that you're applying for in the UK. Now, the Tier 2 Intra-Company Transfer visa is a visa that's provided by a UK-based company by a foreign office. So if you're working for a company internationally elsewhere outside of the UK, and you're a non-EEA or a non-European citizen, and you want to immigrate to the UK, the company that you're working for can transfer you on this visa to their UK office. Typically, you will continue to do the role that you were assigned or your skills were built for in the UK. That's the key difference here. So let's talk about the differences between the Tier 2 General and the Tier 2 ICT visa. So the key things that I'm going to be considering for the comparison between the General and the ICT visa are the following. Specifically, what we're going to be looking at is whether each one of these visas requires a sponsorship, whether you can extend your visa whilst you're in the UK, whether there's a requirement for a minimum salary and what those requirements are, whether you can get residency or citizenship, and if you get your salary paid in the UK, and whether you whether you can change your jobs. Finally, we'll be looking at whether your dependents or family are allowed in the UK. So I think the first thing that I'm going to talk about is whether you can get sponsorship, and the key bit is on the Tier 2 General and the Tier 2 ICT visa, you need a sponsor. In each one of those scenarios, you need a home or a UK-based company to sponsor your visa so that you can actually immigrate to the UK. And that's through something called as a certificate of sponsorship. The second bit I'm going to talk about is the extension. So both these visas allow you to extend your visa whilst you're in the UK up to a maximum of 5 years. So that's why I've got an asterisk here. So you've got basically a requirement whereby you can extend your visa, but you can only extend it up to 5 years. The difference between the General and the ICT visa on the extension is that at the end of the 5 years, on the ICT visa, you need to return back to your home country or leave the UK. Whereas in a general visa, after you've completed 5 years on the tier 2 general, you can apply for permanent residency, which then can lead to citizenship. I'm going to get to that in a sec as well. The next bit I'm going to talk about is on whether there's a requirement for a minimum salary on each one of these visas. As you can see, both of them require a minimum salary. So the last one I checked on the UK Gov website, so the minimum salary requirement for the general visa is about £30,000 at the moment. Of course, this varies month on month, and it's subject to change. So this video is obviously being recorded in June 2020. If you're watching this later, the requirements may have changed. Whereas on a tier 2 ICT visa, there are two different categories. So if you're coming for a long-term period, I think over a year, then you need to earn a minimum of £41,500 to be able to come on a tier 2 ICT visa. However, if you're like a graduate, so you're a fresh graduate and you've just graduated from your from a university, and your company wants you to transfer over, then you can come to the UK on £23,500. So your company needs to pay you this minimum salary in both scenarios for you to be able to immigrate to the UK, and the government will check this. So this next bit actually is the most important bit from my perspective, which is whether you can get residency and citizenship. Now, the key thing is on tier 2 general, yes, you can get citizenship and residency. So as I said earlier, after 5 years, you are eligible to apply for an indefinite leave to remain, which is basically permanent residency. And after 12 months after you've gotten your ILR or indefinite leave to remain, you are eligible to become a citizen in the UK. Whereas on the ICT visa, you will not be able to do those things. So you, as a mandatory requirement at this current point in time, after you've completed 5 years on the tier 2 ICT visa, you have to return back to your home country or leave the UK. So it's an important factor to consider when you're coming to the UK, which one you're going to look at. And I'll again talk about this in the bonus section. The next bit is on whether you get your salary paid in the UK when you come on either of these visas. So when you come on a tier 2 general visa, you're basically a local hire. You're no different to anybody else who's working in the UK on the same for a similar job or is a permanent employee. So you will get paid in the UK into your UK bank account. So basically be earning in British pounds. On the ICT visa, now this is I've got an asterisk there for a reason, which is basically this depends. So as I said earlier, if you're coming here for a long-term period, i.e. more than a year or up to 5 years, then you will basically be paid in the UK, and this depends on your personal contract with your company. But if you're coming for shorter periods, what companies can and they tend to do is they'll continue to pay you in your local currency back home, wherever you're from, and they may give you a stipend to live in the UK. So it's not always a requirement for a company to pay you in the UK when you come on an ICT visa. This is obviously, depends on personal circumstances and personal contracts. So look into it and discuss it with your company when you're considering it. But it plays a part in terms of your quality of life. Now, the next one again is a very, very important factor for me, personally speaking, which is changing jobs. So I think the key bit is when you come to the UK, and if you've now worked for a company for 3 years or 4 years and you want to move companies, can you change jobs? Essentially on the tier 2 general visa, you can change your jobs, subject to, and that's why I've got the asterisk, if your company or the company that's about to hire you is willing to sponsor you. So it's not a case that you just come here and then you can change jobs. You need to be able to have somebody who's going to be able to sponsor your visa if you want to change jobs. Now, on the Tier 2 ICT visa, once you come here, you're stuck with that company essentially until you go back to your home country. So you cannot change jobs. So the Tier 2 General visa adds to and provides you an additional layer of flexibility, provided you can find somebody to sponsor your visa here. Finally, dependents. The key thing is on both visas, you can have dependents come in, provided you get a dependent visa for them. So in each scenario, it's called a Tier 2 General Dependent or Tier 2 ICT Dependent visa. And so your partner, your spouse, your children can come and live in the UK whilst you're here. I'm not going to go into quite a bit of detail on this, but the Tier 2 General Dependent and the Tier 2 ICT Dependent visas, if you've got a spouse and they want to work in the UK whilst you're here in the UK, they can. And they have a lot more flexibility than you in terms of being able to find any job with some sort of restrictions, but they can find jobs and they can change jobs if they want to whilst they're in the UK with you. So that kind of summarizes the view on the key differences between the visas. But what I want to highlight specifically is, as you can see, the visas are quite similar. The main thing to keep in mind is that the Tier 2 General and visa gives you a bit more flexibility, specifically when you're looking at permanent residency and citizenship. And when you compare that with changing jobs, also the Tier 2 General visa gives you that added benefit of being able to change jobs, with of course the caveat that as long as you can get sponsored by somebody. So I mean, I think the bottom line is, the Tier 2 General visa is slightly more flexible, and in the grand scheme of things, if you're not sure whether you want to return back to your country, it will give you that added advantage that you have a path to citizenship and permanent residency in the UK. Another thing I want to flag is when you do move to the UK on a Tier 2 ICT visa, and if for some reason after you spent 2 years or 4 years in the UK and you want to continue to stay in the UK, one, you will not be able to use the time that you spent in the UK on your ICT visa towards getting residency or citizenship. And two is, if you do want to change visas from an ICT visa, you have to first go back home to your home country, spend a year there, and then apply for a new UK visa or a new UK Tier 2 General visa in order to return to the country, if that's the visa that you're going to come back to the UK on. So basically, thanks for staying with me until this point in the video. As a reward, I'm going to be talking about my personal experiences with both of these visas and how I sort of came to the UK. So the story is basically, back in 2010, I moved to the UK. So at that time, I had graduated and I had spent a year working with a consulting firm in my home country. After a year with them, they said they would like me to come to the UK because the UK firm had a shortage of staff. It was a temporary assignment originally for 6 months. And I came to the UK at that point not knowing the differences between the two different types of Tier 2 visas, but I came on a ICT visa. So I originally was meant to come for 6 months, but after spending 6 months, the local office really liked me, and they wanted to extend me. So they actually ended up extending me for 2 years. So I spent 2 years at the firm, and after 2 years, I actually wanted to stay with the firm and continue my employment in the UK. So I wanted to become a UK staff, permanent staff. Now, at that point, my India firm wanted me to go back. So basically, I couldn't get that transfer from an ICT into a general visa. So I had to go back to my home country. Now, fast forward a couple of years, I'm living in Japan. I've left my old job at that consulting firm. And basically, I've gotten another offer now with a different consulting firm, and they want to want me to work in the UK for them. So because I was, not tied to any company, and this was a new firm offering me a new job, they offered to give me a job on a tier 2 general visa, and I moved to the UK at that point on a general visa. So once I moved to the UK on a tier 2 general visa, I had the opportunity to get on that path for residency and citizenship. Also, another thing to keep in mind is when I did that second stint on a general visa, I did end up changing jobs as well. So I had experience of, I transferred over on a tier 2 general visa. I'd come to the country. I was working for this company for a few years, and then after having spent the time with the company, I was kind of no longer happy with my job and I wanted to try something different. I actually managed to find another company that was willing to sponsor me on a tier 2 general visa, and I actually changed jobs as a result of that flexibility with the tier 2 general visas. And that, personally, from a career perspective, that gave me that step up in my personal career growth. So what does this mean, right? What does this mean for you? So what the key message that I want to give you, based on my personal experience, and this depends on your personal circumstances, is when you're considering moving to the UK, right? If your company offers you an opportunity to move to the UK, when you get down to brass tacks and negotiation with your company about salary and your working arrangements in the UK, try and get a tier 2 general visa if you are unsure about what you want to do in the future, right? If you're not clear on whether you want to go back to your home country, or if you're not clear on what the difference is between the ICT and the general visas, my advice to you would be consider asking for a general visa. I actually had a friend who had the same dilemma, and I provided him this recommendation, and he negotiated successfully with his company to get him a general visa, and he's now here in the UK. So the primary reason I'm saying you might want to consider getting a general visa is, as I've highlighted previously between the differences on the two visas, it gives you flexibility. So you have the flexibility of finding another job when you're on a general visa. You're not just stuck to one company for the entire duration of your visa, because things can change, personal circumstances can change. And then the second thing is, if you're not sure, and if you're not clear about wanting to return to your country, then it gives you that opportunity to stay permanently in the UK, and that opens up different doors for you, personally speaking. So I think my personal experience is, if you unsure, go for the general visa. If by all means you're absolutely sure you just want to do a short stint and you want to return back to your home country, then by all means take an ICT visa, and if you're confident that works for you, then that's fine. The other thing I just want to say is, right, so sometimes you don't have that negotiation power, and if you do not have the negotiation power, and your company says take the ICT visa or you don't go, then don't be disappointed, right? Because in my case, right, I came on an ICT visa, and then I had to go back to my home country. But in retrospect, when I think about that second stint when I got the general visa and I moved to the UK, that ICT opportunity of spending 2 years in the UK actually gave me the opportunity to build some relationships, get to know some people in the UK. And actually the second opportunity that I got was through those relationships. So when I got offered the second job, it was because I'd worked with somebody here in the UK who actually referred me into the second opportunity. So don't disregard the opportunity of an ICT visa, or don't be disappointed that you have an ICT visa, because you don't know where you will be in the future, right? It still opens up a door of opportunity for you to get to somewhere and pursue your goals. The bottom line, and this is a bit of life introspection, is, life is unexpected. You don't know where you're going to be in 5 years, and, I think and things definitely change person to person, scenario to scenario. So, try and be as flexible if you can, with the whole visa situation, and seek the general visa is my advice to you. So that's it, guys. I mean, that's it for this video. I'd like to get your thoughts, personally speaking. What do you think is a better visa? And have you got any specific items or areas that you'd like me to cover about life in the UK? If you do, then please comment in the section below. And do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and I'll keep coming back with some good videos and content for you. Thanks very much for watching, and speak to you soon.